Let me go on. I'm going to get to Tucker. Tucker is, you know, Tucker is an unusual person in our times right now because he's on mainstream media. Tucker Carlson is on mainstream media, but he does his channel, or I called it a channel. He does his show like he's an independent dude. Fox News doesn't even rock with everything he says. Tucker Carlson is a separate entity from Fox News. He's not Fox News. Look at this. Tucker Carlson is drawing more Democratic viewers than MSNBC or CNN in the 25 to 54 age range. Did anybody else expect that? I didn't expect that. But now that I see it, it makes sense. Carlson was top among Democrats in the demo across all of cable news. That month ranked third place among Dems in total viewership too. Of the top 4 programs among Democrats in total viewers, Fox News had 3, 5. The 5 is a show I used to watch. I don't watch it much anymore. Tucker Carlson Tonight and Hannity. I don't know why I'm not a big Hannity fan. I'm not a huge Hannity fan, but much respect, whatever. They got the top spots. The top spot in total viewers went to Rachel Maddow. Rachel Maddow and I do not agree politically. She's had blunders, but I have blunders. Everybody has blunders and mistakes. She's very bright. I don't enjoy her show because she's too smug for me, in my opinion. But I do respect her. She's very bright, very intelligent. I like the way she runs her show. If she weren't smug, I'd watch her show every day. If she wasn't dripping with, in my opinion, it's just your point of view. If she wasn't dripping with arrogance, I'd watch her show and I'd watch it every day. I wouldn't have a problem with it, but she's very smart. So, but when you look at it, it puts things in a different light. Remember when we talked about the NSA spying on Tucker Carlson, which was denied? I did not believe the denial letter, or the denial letter was not exhaustive. Let's put it like that. So they know that this guy's been taking viewers, and he was really, they never denied that he was indirectly monitored. They denied that he was directly being spied upon. It was just indirectly. Sean Hannity's just a right-wing Rachel Maddow. Yep. Well said. And then they tried to go after him, Tucker Carlson, about this, donating to Marjorie Taylor Greene's campaign $250. Here's where I'm at. Here's what I care about. Is the person I'm listening to, are they going to be influenced by the donation or whatever else they do with a campaign? So the question that I would have is, in my head, would Tucker Carlson refuse or avoid criticizing Marjorie Taylor Greene because of this action? Absolutely not, in my opinion. If it reached a certain level of standard, he might not criticize her at my level of standard, but I think if it reached, he's criticized Trump, he's criticized anyone. He is principled and he goes after ideas. So that donation, you tell me, does that donation bother you? Does it bother you? And these personalities, I don't know if Tucker even calls himself a journalist. These personalities have private lives, right? They can donate, they can vote. Does that bother you? And the test is, would it bother you if Brian Stelter donated $250 to Kamala Harris, or just hypothetically? For me, the donation wouldn't be what bothered me. It's just what Stelter does every day. The donation's irrelevant. I want to play a little bit I want to revisit this. What an amazing moment. He has a magical, I don't know if it's not gravitas. He has a way with words. Let me play this for you. This is you might have seen this already. One of my favorite speeches since Rush Limbaugh, probably circa 2009.
A ton of people who are totally cut off because they live in a hermetically sealed, airless world where they're really, really worried about getting super sick, which I'm sympathetic to that. But that doesn't mean that people who are 25 and at no risk at all should pay the cost for that. I get that you're concerned, and I respect that, and I have relatives in that position. I can't overstate how much I'm not mocking and how seriously I'm taking those fears, because I think they're grounded. I'm not making fun of anybody. We all have to decide, what we're afraid of and how we're going to respond to it. What I think is completely unacceptable is destroying the next generation of Americans.
I like how humble he is. That's a good, humble moment in his speech.
How we're going to respond to it. What I think is completely unacceptable is destroying the next generation of Americans because you're afraid. I think it's cowardly. I think it's disgusting. I think it's one of the great crimes ever committed. I do think that. It's totally cowardly. It's totally, I'm 52, so, I'm more than halfway there. And I'd rather leave tonight than see my kids destroyed. Any normal person would. Any normal person would hesitate for 1 second.
I'm trying to understand why this isn't even really a political speech, or it's not like a party speech. This speech has nothing to do with whether you're a Democrat or Republican. And Tucker's taking that lane, and that's why I'm ready to call him a populist. He comes from a populist angle.
Not 1 second. Well, I could live another 30 years and play more golf. Or my kids could thrive. I'm going to just have to take the weekend to think about it. No normal person thinks that way. And if you're in charge of a country, you have to think of the country first. It's actually not about you, you narcissistic creep. It's not
Let's
about
go.
you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm so afraid. Okay, you're so afraid. I don't judge you.
Then stay
we all have
home.
irrational fears. We all have actually some rational fears. There are things to be afraid of. That's all right.
Absolutely.
But you can't lead if you're afraid. That is totally disqualifying. Terrified people shouldn't be in charge of anything.
Rip them.
Terrified people? Says who? So this is like the most obvious thing in world history. No country puts terrified people in charge. It's like there's no animal species that does that. Oh, the whimpering dog's going to lead the pack. That's a good idea. No! Whimpering dog gets to the back. He follows the big brave dog. That's how life is. How far are you from nature that you think it's a good idea to put a terrified old guy in charge of Corona?
Yes, sir.
What?
I'm going to be your hype man. Let's go.
No, I mean it. So here's the upside. This can't continue. Nature writes the rules. We don't. And Joe Biden certainly doesn't. Nature writes the rules.
That's
Period.
God.
We're not in charge
That's
of those
God.
rules that are immutable.
Yep.
They apply to the Romans. They apply to us. These are the laws of nature. We are subject to them whether we want to be or not. We can't change them. We can't transition out of them. We can't identify as being exempt from them. Because they don't change. They don't care what we think. Nature, God, is outside of our control. We can only respond. That's it. And we can respond wisely or we can respond foolishly, but we can't pretend we're in charge of it. You spend the night in a snowstorm in your boxers, you're going to die. You can't identify as warm. It will kill you.
I love this speech so much. I'm just going to let it ride. I love hearing this.
No, it's true. So that's not like some crackpot right-wing theory I thought up this afternoon. Oh, I'm speaking at Turning Point. Better torque up the politics. That's like the truest thing there is. And if you forget that at scale, like as a country, it just doesn't work. It will never work. I don't care what, people with degrees on Twitter are telling you. That's just not real. And it will snap back because it has to. If it can't continue, it won't, and it won't. So all you need to do is get as far away from these people as you possibly can so you can stay sane. I mean it. That makes a huge... I've done
Being
it. I'm
dead.
not going to get into my weird personal life, which is totally not weird. The one thing I'll say about it is, like, I opted out of that. I don't want to be around that stuff anymore.
Nope.
At my age, I'm just not going to be. I'm not going to be around that. I'm not going to be around it for one more minute of my life. And I have a flexible job, and so I'm not around it. I'm not around any crazy people. I'm around people who disagree with me. That's totally fine with me. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I don't mind being disagreed with. I'm not always right. I'm often
Back in the day, Tucker used to do debates all the time. Why those days go away?
wrong. But I definitely don't want to be around crazy people who want to wreck stuff. Absolutely not.
No.
I want to be around happy people who want to build stuff.
Yep.
And there are only two
Yes,
kinds
sir.
of people.
Yes, sir.
You're either creating something beautiful or you're tearing it down. That's it. That's it. You're either creating something beautiful or you're tearing it down. And all the joy in life is in creating something beautiful, whether it's relationships or children or your work product. That's the joy right there, is in making stuff and hoping that it lasts. And if you're around people who are like taking joy and kicking it down or spray painting it, just move away. Like this is not a rational thing. This is a spiritual battle. You're not going to win them over through argument. You don't want physical conflict with them. That's horrible. Violence is horrible.
Yes.
I guess sometimes it's, unavoidable. But if
Yes.
you can avoid it, you should, because
Yes.
it's bad. You don't want to hurt people,
Smart. Yep.
Just get away. And now you can. You absolutely can. Not all of you can. Some of you are tethered to this or that obligation, or there's still
Respectful.
places without internet service, I guess. But I look at these cities and I'm like, why isn't everyone living on the shores of Lake Superior in like an abandoned Finnish settler village? What, taking saunas every day and like looking out on the steely gray water and feeling happy. And yet they're in some like super depressing parking spot driving 20 miles to, why would you do that? And getting yelled at and flashing signs on the highway telling you to wear a mask or get your injection or whatever? No thanks. I don't want to be around that at all. And you shouldn't either. And you should run away. You will feel much happier and you will see much more clearly. Some of you have to deal with it, but some of you don't, and you shouldn't. It's a continental country. The whole interior of the country has been abandoned. It's unpopulated. Take it back.
Truth.
It's your country. You can
Truth.
live there if you want. It's all right.
Truth.
And you should.
I'll be very honest with you. I've already no one tell my wife, this is our secret. Just in case, I've been like, here's my proposal for us to go somewhere out in a rural area where people, we've been in rural areas. If you're not familiar with rural areas, and sometimes people have this stigma about worrying about if you're black or this identity out there. The rural areas that I've been into, I've been in rural areas in Oklahoma, Minnesota, Ohio. The ones that I've been in, you got to be careful. Michigan, most of Michigan's a rural area. It's just Detroit, and everything else is kind of rural. What my experience has been, you treat people well, you say hello, you don't do shady stuff, they treat you the same way. They don't care the color of your skin. So don't be afraid of that. So if you are, I'm not sure if anybody is, but just my experience. That's not everywhere, obviously, but that's an option. And that was my number one proposal, is we can be on the internet and work almost anywhere. Let's go to somewhere where people respect each other. They don't bother you. We live in a way where we don't bother other people, and we're good.
And then I would recommend kind of waiting it out a little bit and build like a real community. I don't know, it's kind of nice to know the guy at the grocery store, the ladies at the post office. That's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing, actually. It's a good thing. And the more of that you get in your life, the happier you'll be. And then you can wait for the dawn, which is coming.
What a speech. I'm going to end with this. Would you vote? Let's take Trump out, because Trump is the Don Dada. He's the dude. No one's stopping Trump. So I'm not even really talking about DeSantis anymore. Nobody's stopping Trump. It's just a matter of, will he choose Tulsi for his VP? That's what I want. Or Yang. Anybody know Trump? Holla at him. Tell him. If I'm going to be so pissed if something happened. I mean, we're way out in the future, but if Trump chose like Pompeo for his VP, I would be so pissed off. The Pence thing obviously didn't work out. You don't need an establishment to. But take Trump out of the equation. Would you consider Tucker Carlson for president? Let me know what you think.